Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, coming to you 6 days a week as we interview whitetail experts and hear their traditions and personal stories of the hunt. Learn more about the latest gear, discover proven tips, and the latest strategies so you can make your next hunt a success. Now, here's your host, Bruce Hutchins.
Whitetail Rendezvous is pleased to announce a partnership with GoHunt.com. Who's GoHunt.com? Well, if you're a DIY hunter in the western states of the United States, you need the information at GoHunt.com/insider. Why? Because it provides 4,200 profiles, every unit, every species, and every season. Furthermore, they give in-depth analysis, interactive maps, unit access, and seasonal trends. Draw odds are very important, and they give you the most accurate information in the business. All this is available when you go to GoHunt.com/insider. Make sure you use promo code WR when you join Insider. You'll get a $50 gift card for GoHunt.com Gear Shop. All in all, if you're hunting out west in 2018, GoHunt.com Insider is where you need to be to get all the research information. When you use promo code WR, Whitetail Rendezvous receives a small commission from GoHunt.com. Welcome to another episode from Whitetail Rendezvous Podcast with your host, Bruce Hutchins. We're heading out to Wisconsin, and we're going to talk to Zack, Haas. And Zack's with Wisconsin Lake and Pond Resources. Zack, welcome to the show.
Yep, glad to be here.
Zack and I have been talking about water. What's so special about water? Well, the earth is made up of water. Human beings are made up of water. And the deer we hunt are made up of water and need water, as we do to survive. So having said that, Zack is a senior aquatic biologist. He knows his stuff, and I'm so glad that John O'Brien from Grandpa Ray Outdoors gave me a shout out and said, "Hey man, get Zack on because he knows something about water." And which I don't, I've been fortunate enough to hunt places where there's plenty of water and it wasn't an issue. Well, it might be on your property, and so that's why Zack's here today. Zack, tell us about why water is important for a healthy whitetail herd.
Yep. So I'll start with the basics and kind of get crazy, and I might nerd out here a little bit on water. So the basics: what does everything living need? It needs food, cover, and water. And water is the most overlooked thing on most properties, and most properties don't have water. Especially if you get out of areas like Minnesota, Wisconsin, we have a lot of water. You start getting areas like Kansas, Iowa, South Dakota, you start getting areas that don't have a lot of fresh water, you're starting to actually see less successes that way. So when we get water on properties, the goal is obviously to give them that third element that they all need, right? So it's just a matter of you give them that element, now it's a matter of making it the right element. And the way I bring that up is there's a lot of bad water out there. Obviously, the biggest thing that's striking most of the country, you go to Dakota, out west, Iowa, we have EHD issues. A lot of that stems from poor water quality. So obviously the EHD midge loves poor water quality. So our goal is to show land managers, show hunters, show conservationists, how do I get the right healthy water? So that's my goal here. That's kind of where I've stemmed a lot of my work more recently. Because of being a big hunter, it's just been a passion. That's a good combination for me.
Well, yeah, you're good at it. That's for sure. So let's throw a couple of scenarios. I've got 120 acres. I don't have a stream run through it. I don't have any ponds on it, but I know water is important because the deer are leaving my land for somebody else's to get water, not food, not cover, water. What do I do?
Yep. So when you get in those areas that you don't have any water, and who knows, maybe your neighbor does have it. So those are those instances that we create water essentially. And the way we do that is through a designing process where we actually use plastic synthetic liners. So we'll go into these areas, making whether it's a 25 by 25 pond all the way up to a full acre pond. Whatever it is, we have the means that we can create that water and create the right water. Obviously, a lot of people, they buy the little 20-gallon tub, or they go and buy the plastic 55-gallon drum, cut it in half. Well, it's water, but it's not the right water. All that really is kind of an aquarium scenario of, for one, how fast the evaporation is going to take that out. It's going to make you have to go there nonstop. You don't want that. So what we've done is we've gone from the 20-gallon tub to a 25 by 25 pond that might hold about 14,000 gallons. Obviously, a big, big difference. You're never going to be able to haul that out to these sites. And it's enough water now that your property has become number one. So it's through these synthetic liners that we do it. And to kind of go through the process of how we create it. So we like to dig our ponds approximately when they're smaller size, 25 to 25, about 4 feet at the max depth. From there, you get around that, like I said, that's probably 10 to 14,000 gallons. So first step is we lay a piece of fabric down, and what that does is just cushions the liner, protects it from rocks, stumps, you name it. It's underneath it you don't know are there after digging. From there, we lay this reinforced polyethylene liner down, just a plastic liner. It's not like roof matting or nothing that way. And then we put another piece of fabric on top of that. And what that does is holds all your soil, gravel, whatever it is that you put back on top of the liner in place. And
what kind of fabric is that? What is that, like burlap or?
It's a landscape fabric, so something similar that you would put like in a beach area or to put rocks in even a landscaping area. It's a denser fabric. It's probably, I'd say, 1/8 of an inch thick, maybe a little thinner than that. And both pieces are that big, but it's very, very tough stuff where a deep deer hoof, nothing that way can even penetrate it. It's even tough to penetrate with a knife.
Okay, so it's substantial.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and so having it in place, it'll protect that investment for one. And obviously, it is a higher investment than getting that tub, but let's be honest, we all buy super stuff when it comes to hunting. This is an investment that's going to last years. So what's nice with the liner is when it's in water, it's almost preserved by the water, so it doesn't break down. And that's why we also cover it with dirt, things that way, is the only thing that'll ever deter a plastic liner is UV. So if the sun hits it, it can start breaking it down just like any other plastic. So that's why we also cover it that way to kind of protect it as well. So like even you get those cold things that way, you get a kiddie pool, those things all break down eventually. Whereas the liner is almost preserved in that water source. But yeah, so that's kind of essentially how we build these ponds, I guess you could say. There's a couple layers of fabric, there's a layer of liner, and that covers the whole basin. And all it simply is rainwater. That's all you need. You just need some good rains, and it will fill it up fast. For example, I have a client that has a 25 by 25 pond. I dug it, lined it, and had some just general rains, nothing crazy, maybe a inch rains here and there, and it filled up within 3 weeks. So it didn't take long to get that 14,000 gallons in there. And now it's there. You didn't even have to go out there with a four-wheeler. You didn't have to fill it up with a big tanker truck. You didn't have to do anything. Just let Mother Nature do her thing.
Okay, so we got hole in the ground 4 feet high or 4 feet in depth, 25 by 25 feet. So now we've got a liner, kind of sort of like people put down, in their floral beds, black, liner. Then we put polyethylene down, plastic. Then we put the liner top of it. Then we backfill it with, how much backfill do we put in on it?
Usually about 6 inches thick of covering you want. So it's nice when you're digging already, whatever spoils you take out, you lay them nicely on the bottom and cover the whole line.
So that's basically it. Do we smooth out the edges or plant aquatic plants or plant reeds or what do we do now?
Yeah, so the next step is now obviously your pond's starting to fill. It's going to be cloudy for a while, so it's not going to look prettiest for a while. But our next step is once the water has finally reached the point where it's topped out essentially to the bank, we want to start putting aquatic plants around the entire edge. So there's a bunch of different aquatic plants out there. One plant that I like to call the aquatic food plot plant is called arrowhead. So deer love to eat it. So it's actually one of those things that you can plant and get a secondary benefit around the pond. Another is water plantain, which you'll even see sometimes, like actually John O'Brien in one of his blends, he has plantain in it. And you can put all these plants around that not only filter the water, but they're also doubling its food source. Obviously, too, we don't want the deer completely eating them, so we put some plants like bulrush, so like almost like a reed. We put bulrush in the pond. Pickerel weed is another one. And we put these aquatic plants in there. And what they help do is, for one, they give you a food source. They create natural beneficial bacteria that grow on the root system. And they filter water like crazy. Kind of like we talked before, you could take a 40-acre cattail marsh, put raw sewage on one end, push it through, and by the time it leaves, they'll pass most EPA water drinking standards. It is that good at filtering. And that's why it is a key point of having these around the pond. Because we even have a lot of clients ask, how do I take care of it? I have this pond dug now. What am I doing? How do I make this healthy? So we use a lot of different things to keep the health up. For one, we add beneficial bacteria. We add enzymes. put pond colorants in to block sunlight so you don't get growth of things in the pond. And aquatic plants are part of that. And that's something that I even have developed, and I can share with the viewers or whoever's asking. But I've made even a wildlife pond management kit that viewers can buy. It's simple. Where maybe once a month you drive by your pond, you add a couple of these things, and you drive on. You don't even have to get off the floor there in most cases.
What are we talking about cost-wise? For the plant, for the hole? Well, somebody's got to dig the hole.
Yep. Yeah. So really, if you do the whole thing, from start to finish, a pond that size, you're probably looking right around $1,500. That's about that gets you everything you need.
Is that
for that
you
water.
doing it? Is that you doing it or me doing it?
That's me doing it. Yep. So if average Joe wants to do it himself, your cost of liner and fabric for that size pond, you might be dealing with $350, $400 for the actual liner and the fabric. Then you dig the hole, do everything that way. It's definitely a higher investment front end, but it's something that, for one, it's going to be a more beneficial source, can draw more deer, hold more deer, and you're not in there bumping deer all the time. So it's one of those things where let's just go down the road of on it. It's a tool. It's a higher cost tool, but it's something that you can have in your inventory. Whereas the pond now it's a tool to make your success even greater.
How about the plants? How much does the plants cost? Because am I planting plants or I'm doing seed?
Yep. So the plants, we usually do seed. Main reason being is for cost reasons. Plugs can cost you, anywhere from about $2 to $3 a plug. So a lot of times we do seed. For one, I like doing seed because it grows in its soil system, whereas when you do a plug, it's getting a shock going into a different soil source. So we do seed. For a pond that size, you're talking very minimal. You're talking maybe $10 for seed. And that's something that's a perennial. You'll never have to seed it again.
Even the quackweed or pickerweed or whatever the weeds you're saying?
Yep.
We're just putting them on the water, or are we putting them along the borders?
So it's essentially what they do is a lot of these plants grow a foot above the water line and a foot below. So there too, you don't have to worry about when you do get a drought. All they need is somewhat damp soil, and they'll grow. So they'll grow within that 2-foot range, essentially. But when we seed, a lot of times when I'm building my ponds, I'll rake around the whole edge, and I'll just lightly seed that whole area. And it doesn't take any time. They start growing and start doing their job.
Because clover would be a nice thing to put around a ring around the pond of clover.
Yep, and I do that quite often. And I work obviously a lot of like Grand Prairie outdoor seed, but I'll plant fall forages around them. I plant my perennial forages right around them, and I recommend that because for one, I'll put your food right next to obviously your water source. You're getting 2 of the 3 things you need for survival. But 2, all those plants are acting as a natural filter for the pond as well. For any runoff that's going towards that pond, your food plot is actually also acting as a buffer. So it actually doubles and does more benefits than most.
Huh. So 25 by 25 isn't that big, isn't that small. Most people would have it. Or if you have a food plot that's larger than that, pick the advantageous place to put in a wildlife pond.
Yep.
And then build your food plot around it. That's what I'm thinking. Am I thinking wrong? I'm thinking right?
No, it's you're right on the right track, Bruce. So for instance, even on my own property, I'm doing an extreme property makeover on my own land this year. And one of my key things was I don't have any water on top of my hill. I essentially hunt. I have a marsh on my property, a creek, and I pretty much hunt a big hill. I have nothing on top of that hill. So I actually went in there. I cut a section, did a lot of stump cuts, and I put in about a 1/4 acre food plot right smack dab in the middle of that food plot. And I'll be doing some live videos soon here on it. I'm putting a little 20 by 20, 25 by 25 pond in it. Because now I have a water source. There is no water, period. All those deer that are on top of that hill, whether they're in thermal bedding or whatever they are in hinge cuts, they're all going to go to that source that's the closest and takes the least amount of energy. So every food plot really you should have water near it. It's a no-brainer in my opinion.
That's interesting. How much does a deer drink a day? How much water do they need? I don't know if I said it right, but how much water do they need? Yeah, so really when you look at it, a deer, they get most of their water actually from their forage. I believe it's right around 70% approximately they get of their water needs comes from just their food. But now that you get into an area of bad drought, their food's drying up. Their food isn't as it doesn't have as much moisture. They may go in a food plot that burned out because of the drought. Those are the times that these water sources are incredible. I
find send me pictures of 15 deer at one time around a 25 by 25 pond in times of drought. Because now that 70% that they normally get from the forages might have got knocked down to 30%. Well, now they have to make all that up somewhere else. They have to go to your water.
Do you have a rule of thumb? If I have 40 acres, no other water source, how much water should I have on that? Should I have one 25 by 25, one 20 by 20, one 10 by 10, or?
Yeah, so I mean, what I kind of do is I usually base it almost no different than you would like mineral stuff. I like to have 1 to 2 per 40 acres. So depending on how your land layout, because your contour plays a lot into that as well, where your deer are moving things that way. I'd say if you're at 1 to 2 water holes per 40 acres, you're doing great.
Okay. So one wildlife pond at 20 acres.
Mm-hmm.
No, okay, let's change it up. Go ahead.
Sure.
I was going to say, let's change it up. So we have on the farm 2 springs. One's on the neighbors, but it feeds our deal. And then the other one definitely on, our controlled ground. Nobody can get to it. And they're, they run pretty much all year long. If it gets really drought, they'll just seep. There'll be a seep. Other than that, the road's it comes off the hillside and the road's always wet.
Sure.
And so what do you do with that to improve it, to hunt it, or should you never hunt it?
Yeah, so when you deal with springs, the biggest issue there, why it doesn't make it a preferred drinking source for a deer, is it's obviously coming from aquifer deep in the ground, so it's very, very cold. That shocks the deer system, so they don't like that cold water, and that's why a lot of times these little ponds are more beneficial because they're closer to their internal body temperature. It doesn't shock their system as much. And it's for the same reason over, I remember when I took Germany and all this stuff, German class and all that, they always said that all those drinks over there are served at room temperature because they believe that it'll shock your system too much. So a lot of times in springs, creeks, streams, whatever it is, a lot of times it's still not preferred source. I still even try to get those little ponds other places on my property. So, not saying it's a bad thing having those, springs and creeks and things that way. It's just still not preferred source. So I still build ponds closer to my stand areas, closer to my food plots to draw deer there for that better water. And they will leave those springs, those ponds, they'll leave those and go to those.
Here's a hot special for all Whitetail Rendezvous listeners. The Hunting Buddy app is given away and all expenses paid. Free-range whitetail hunt at ABC New York Ranch this fall. You'll be hunting with NASCAR driver Spencer Boyd and the Hunting Buddy team, all the while being filmed by a professional film crew from Rush Outdoors, as seen on the Pursuit channel. To enter the contest for free, go to huntingbuddyApp.com. Click the Huge Hunt Giveaway section tab and download the app. When you upgrade to the Outfitter plan, you get 30 additional giveaway entries. Hunting Buddy app is your best choice for staying safe in the woods with their patent-pending safety notification system. So Lunar information including peak game, activity times, current and future weather forecasts, land ownership, hunting waypoints, group hunting, and so much more, all for free from Hunting Buddy app. That's HUNT apostrophe N BUDDY app.
Little tiny pond, a little wildlife pond.
So if I took one of the springs and ran a pipe from that into a pond to fill it, it would warm it up.
Yep.
It would warm it up. So I could make east of where that one spring is that we control, you just put a pipe in there and suck it down, and then put a pond in there, and the pond would be huntable for all the reasons that you said.
Yep, exactly. Even for me, I have, like I mentioned, I have a marsh, a 20-acre marsh, and I also have the headwaters of the Milwaukee River come from my property. And we have a creek, and I have a lot of water on my property, but I still put all my little ponds because I know that deer will go to those, and they're two of the, for positioning ponds even. Deer love seclusion. You might have a spring in a wide open area that you're like, well, I got water here. But if it's not secluded, the deer don't want to be there. No different than very, very large food plots. A lot of times your mature animals avoid those big food plots. They love the tiny little micro plots. And those little micro plots is where I also put my ponds. That's where the deer want to be. They feel safe. They know where their predators are at. They're not getting bumped. That's where you want to be.
No, in a kill plot, my kill plots are only 10, but they're 100 square feet. I mean, so I really can't put a wildlife pond on that. I mean,
Sure.
It'd be like a bucket.
Sure.
That wouldn't work.
Yeah, and they're true. Like, a lot of times I get asked because see pond liners things that way. Sometimes they're out of people's budgets, and I completely understand. I get it. What I usually tell people is don't dig in these little tiny tubs if you have a little tiny micropod like that. What I usually recommend is doing a above ground water source then. So like a galvanized tank, things that way. And the reason why I don't like things in the ground, for those smaller tanks is, for one, you're still having mud and things going in there that can grow the EHD midge, the Dakota midge, and you don't want that. So that's why I like them still above the water, above the ground. So that's the budgetary way to do it. And you can also go smaller ponds. I have a client in western Wisconsin that did a 10 by 10 pond, shot his biggest buck on it. It's not a big pond by any means. I'd say the surface of it is maybe 7 by 7 feet. That's it. But it's holding a lot more water than any tub still would. So that's where you can kind of custom your pond size. You don't have to have that 25 by 25. That's more of a recommendation. But you can always narrow them down. It's like, this pot would be a great spot to have water and food. You can always shrink them. And I still would like to see that because I like knowing that it's more of an ecosystem rather than a tub.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. Once it's there for a while, okay, you get it in, you mess it up. Pond should be in pretty much right now. It's a little late to go in, July, August, and throw a pond in there. You're kind of screwing yourself, I would think, if there's a mature buck, if you want a mature buck to come in for this year, not for next year.
Yeah. I mean, we put ponds in all the way up till almost dang year season. We really do. And so it's nice because a lot of times what you're doing, you're running equipment. And most areas that we're hunting whitetail, they're used to machinery. They're used to hearing they're used to hearing your things running around. If you're in a mini excavator skid loader, it sounds like it's a tractor. It doesn't really bother them as much as you think. And you're in and out of that in the same day. So it's not a very long project. You're in there, you're done, get some rain, fill it up. And I've had it where we do a lot of bigger ponds even for our company, and we put a 2-acre fishing pond in. And so there was 4 bulldozers, there was 2 excavators. I mean, you name it, there's a lot of equipment. You wouldn't think a deer would be around it. The next day we went down there, the liner was completely full of deer tracks. So they're curious animals. They still want to check it out. So it's more than if you're in there obviously every day checking on it, that's what's going to hurt you. But if you're in there, you do your job, you build that pond, you get out, it's not going to hurt you.
Yeah, because my friends, I know I'm going to have to call them and say, okay, because we were going to use old tires, to form up and just put plastic in them, pack a liner, let the rain fill it up, but it's not any close to doing anything for the ecology of that. It's just an old tractor tire, and a liner put in the ground, collect water, but it's not going to do anything.
Yeah, I mean, you still, the biggest thing you want to avoid is what I call the aquarium feel. There's nothing real in it. And what I always tell everyone when they say, "Why do you do a liner?" Well, think about that fish tank and put your water in it. Don't treat it. Just let it sit. It's going to turn green. It's going to turn nasty. Any fish that is in there is going to die because it gets that aquarium feel. You need that fresh dirt. You need that ecosystem. You need the plant, and that's the way to avoid these issues.
Huh. Interesting. So, on your pond, do you set up tree stands?
Yes. Yeah. All my ponds are within a bull shot. So there was one thing that's there too is that it gives you an awesome opportunity. The deer come in. A lot of times what I do is I'll also even berm sometimes areas, or I'll put trees or something where I don't want a deer to drink, let's say. So if I have fill, I might berm the whole back side up, but I don't want them drinking right towards at me. Make it where they don't want to stand there. Whereas areas I want to shot, those areas I'll level out, things that way. The deer will come and drink. You'll get a nice broadside shot. Their heads are down. You can usually draw back on them, and you can get a great shot. Well, I try to usually put them right around that 20-yard mark. For one, it's also a yardage marker for you, too. If a deer comes out, okay, it's at 23 yards if it's at the back side of the pond, or 17 if it's the front side. You can also use a yardage marker, so it definitely helps you.
And once you put the pond in, you said deer are inquisitive creatures, so they could be there the next day, they could be the next hour when you guys leave going, what the heck's going on?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. I mean, for the most part, once you get that first rain to get any kind of water in there, you're going to have deer in it. There's a guarantee in my mind you will have deer in it that first time water hits and starts going in that liner.
Okay, so now, if we're on the hill and the water fills up and goes over, do we put an outlet in it so it kind of moves, the water moves downhill or not?
Usually if you're on top of the hill, you never usually have that issue. It'll usually kind of balance itself out. You usually have more of the issues if you have your pond set up where you're collecting drainage, where you're collecting a lot of runoff. And sometimes in those areas, we'll put just a little piece of either a drain tile or just a little pipe going out one side where it can just naturally go out to the area. Obviously, if you're next to a food plot, sometimes put your food plot on the downside so it's getting that overflow where it's soaking through the soil and actually helping your food plot out too. Because one thing I don't want to ever collect is a lot of runoff. For one, it kind of can hurt the system, especially if you have farm runoff going into it. So yeah, even there too, if you know you're going to get a lot of water, it's going to fill the pond up really fast, maybe put your food plot on the downside a little bit so it gets that extra water. It could help it that way too. But yeah, we do outlets on some of them that we know are going to receive a lot of water.
This is interesting stuff. I just haven't really thought much about it. I don't know, listeners, if you've thought much about it, let me know. I'm curious about how you're putting wildlife ponds in on your land. And at this time, I'd like to say, what's your one big thing about whitetail hunting? The one thing that, is core to your whitetail hunting. What would that be?
What's that, Bruce?
The one thing that's core to your whitetail hunting. I'm changing it up from the water. Now we're talking about whitetail deer hunting, and the one thing that you wouldn't leave home without your flashlight. I'm just throwing stuff out. You wouldn't leave home without your rubber boots. You wouldn't leave home without your safety harness. What's the one big thing that, you wish you knew, say it another way, one big thing you wish you knew 10 years ago that you know today?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say, the biggest thing for me, I guess it's not as much of the stuff that I can bring with, it's the things I've learned. It's more about how I get in the stand, things that way, going at the right winds and, okay, don't hunt stupid in this spot. I did way too much of that when I was young. So like a lot of times my big things is wind indicators, stuff like that. I mean, my buck I shot last year in Kansas, I changed my stand 4 times in the same day just because of wind direction. And so I constantly am using my wind indicator. I'd say that's one of my number one things, because if you aren't hunting the wind right, you're not hunting right, period. So I'd say that's one of my number one things, is probably some way to always watch my wind. That's my number one thing.
And thanks for that. When you think about hunting different states, how many states do you hunt every year?
Usually I try to hunt 2 to 3 states a year. For one, I just love the different. How a whitetail from one state to another is a completely different animal. So I try to hunt, if I can, 2 to 3. If my wife lets me, usually it's 2 a year though.
Where do you like to go?
Iowa and Kansas. Those are probably my top. I've got more into Kansas lately. I actually help an outfitter out there doing land management and things that way. But there too, Iowa's always been fun. Missouri's been fun. But I love going to Iowa and Kansas. They're probably my favorite too.
No, it's Iowa. You have to wait for permit, so you have to put in a draw.
Yep.
Missouri, do you have to put in for a draw?
Missouri's over the counter.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, and then Kansas, that one's pretty much a guaranteed draw. Still have to put in for a draw. Iowa, I actually didn't get my bow tag this year, so that's 3 points I have. And now I've just got my 4th point, so there'll be a 5-year process to get that bow tag.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I just got a couple of points for Iowa. I'm going to hunt not Kansas, but I'll be hunting western Nebraska this year and try to take a mule deer with my crossbow. So that'll be fun. Yeah, that'll be a fun hunt. And they do have whitetail on the ranch too, so we'll see where that goes. When you're traveling, how does that different than hunting, the back 40 near El Dorado Marsh?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for us is when I rose up for hunting and stuff like that, is we have very small parcels here in Wisconsin. So it's, you might get a buck that he lives in a 40 and that's it. My biggest buck, for instance, he lived in a 30-acre woods, and that was it. That's where he lived. So it's really neat to go to different areas like Kansas, where you might be sitting in an area where you're the only tree, and then you're looking at a field that's 20 acres with not a other tree in there, and these deer are just wandering through it. So it's really neat when you go to those different areas. Iowa is very similar, I'd say, but a lot of rolling hills, and the amount of bucks is ridiculous. But I think that's my biggest difference is when I'm here at home, there's a lot of more hunters here in Wisconsin. We have a high density of hunters, so it's a lot of competition. Where you start going to other areas, you get these big parcel sections where you don't have the competition. So it's kind of fun when you go up that way and you're seeing maybe 4 or 5 mature bucks, whereas back here I might be hunting one mature animal and following him for 4 to 5 years until I can even get a crack at him.
Yeah, that's interesting, and I guess that's why we like to travel. And I'm sure your business takes you to different states, and that gives you somewhat of an advantage because you're already on somebody's land and need to see where the thing goes. Well,
Yep.
Zach, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Oh, no, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's time to wrap up the show, and just thank you for spending your time with Whitetail Rendezvous. And again, how do people reach out and get a hold of you?
Yep. So the best way is either hit me on Facebook. Have Wisconsin Lake and Pond Resource. We're on Facebook. You can also go to our website, wisconsinlpr.com. And then even my email is Zack, Z-A-C-H, at wisconsinlpr.com. And I'm always open to talk water. I'm a water nerd, so I like to talk it.
Well, I really appreciate it. I learned a whole heck of a lot, and hope my listeners do. So listeners, reach out to me at whitetailrendezvous.com and let me know what you thought about the show. And, check out Zack, because water does make a difference. I know that hunting in the West, it's huge, and it's just as huge in the whitetail woods, but we just haven't paid that much attention to it. So, you put up some Egyptian wheat or Egyptian grass and some of that plantain, and you get some cover, and you can really set up a nice little kill plot right over your wildlife pond. I think that's what I wanted to say.
Yep.
Thanks so much. It's been great.
Yep. Thank you, Bruce. Nice talking to you.
Hey, folks, we got a new sponsor. It's called Buckwild Coffee. What's so special about Buckwild Coffee? Well, a gazillion people go to Starbucks every day and drink coffee. Well, why shouldn't Buckwild Coffee offer you light, medium, or dark roast with free shipping? All you have to do is go to whitetailrendezvous.com, go to shop, and order your coffee, and I'll ship it out for free. Hey, next up is Dr. Sean Tyson. Dr. Tyson's been on the show a couple of different times, and he's the owner of Pure One Outdoors, started a few years ago, and he's got scent control and UV killer, and that's how I got a hold of him. We had some good discussions about UV and what people do know or don't know about UV, and the brighteners in a lot of camos that you'd be surprised if you put your camo in a dark room and turn on a black light, you might see some glowing, and guess what? That's the hue, the blue hue that's emitting from the camo that whitetails see. Yes, whitetails see blue hues. And at dawn and dusk, they're at the peak in the woods. So there's a lot of things working against you. Plus, Dr. Tyson has Buck Yeah and Buckzation and other products that you can find at xouthunt.com. Again, his website is xouthunt.com. You're going to love the show. Dr. Tyson's got a lot of tips to tell you how to stay undetected in the woods.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.